Hey folks, Chris McLean, Peak Performance and Transformation Coach, back with another episode of the Peak Performance and Predictable Growth Show, the Peak Performance show for creative agency founders, owners and leaders, where we explore the agency journey from the unique perspective of those at the coalface of the industry. My guests help unlock and dissect strategies, tools and tactics from the trenches that are working right now to help you deliver better results for your clients and grow and scale your agency to 6, 7 figures and beyond. And my guest on the show today is Schenk.
Chris, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Lewis is an entrepreneur and PR consultant from Boost Media, and Boost helps businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs grow their digital footprint, build credibility, and ultimately position them for success. Lewis, awesome to have you on the show. Thanks for dropping by.
No problems, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, so let's dive in at the start. It's always a good place to sort of kick things off. Where did you get into PR? How did that journey start? Why did you start Boost? And sort of take us from that initial why you started and up to what you're doing today.
Yeah, good question. So I'll run through the story as quick as I can. But basically, I was running a company for 2 Melbourne entrepreneurs who started another company. Then I ended up, they wanted to sell me that business. I decided to start my own instead. So that was an events company. Obviously, at the start of COVID, February last year, things kind of started to take a turn for the worse in the events company. One of my good friends who's based in Canada, he builds out sales teams and systems for companies. And so he was actually building out a sales team for a PR company in the US. And he was like, look, your events thing's obviously on hold. Do you want a sales gig? And so, I was like, yep, why not? Kind of got a bit of an insight into the company. I was completely kind of new to the world of PR then, but I learned so much in that short period of time working for them. And I really saw the value in the service, but I knew there was things that they were kind of lacking that I knew I could do better. So being an entrepreneur at heart, I was like, yeah, kind of ditched that gig and then started my own thing, Boost Media, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, right. So what was that difference from your traditional PR sort of firm? What opportunity did you see, and what difference do you actually bring to the profession?
Yeah, good question. So traditional PR, is quite expensive for companies and entrepreneurs, and it's, very little guaranteed. So it's, big retainers of $2,000 plus all the way up to $6,000. I know people who, paid $6,000 for a year. $6,000 a month for a year, which got literally 0 results. So the way that we operate is all paid on performance. So essentially, we guarantee the service that we provide. If we don't, deliver the certain publication or article, they don't pay. So yeah, it's more of a paid on performance type model.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. And how have you found that fitting into the market? Is there sort of a shift in the market? Obviously, you're doing pretty well, but have you found a notable shift in the market that the client base sort of has that demand for shifting from that traditional model to I'll get my results first and I'll pay you based on what you're actually generating for me?
Yeah, good question. So part of what we aim to do is like bridge the gap on, accessibility to PR, because obviously traditionally it's like, the big companies with huge budgets who are getting it, and like the smaller fish kind of miss out. So fortunately, we've been able to work with people, at all levels across the board, people in their first year of business, people who have, one of our biggest clients is like a $40 million company. So it's like, we have the ability to kind of help the people who are just getting started. And so obviously it's at a much lower investment for them. They couldn't afford to pay $3,000 a month for, a company to represent them. So yeah, we kind of bridge that gap and have been able to kind of work with a lot of people, especially in the online space. I think you and I can both agree it's kind of boomed, especially in the last 12 months. Everything shifted online because of COVID. People want that online income. There's a lot of people out there that do an amazing job of things, but just don't have the, the brand behind their name. So that's kind of what we aim to do.
And where are you finding the most valuable platforms for people? So as you say, the world seems to have moved very, very digital, very rapidly. It's been shifting obviously for the last couple of decades, but last year, all the laggards sort of crossed that chasm, right? And they jumped into online just because they had to. Are you finding that digital is the place to be? Are you finding unique opportunities sort of in that traditional media, radio, TV, print sort of channels? Do you operate across all, and where are the opportunities sort of showing up?
Yeah, currently our predominant focus is just online. So digital publications. We have got some clients in the newspaper before, but we're really just trying to, for the next 12 months at least, just really, kind of dial in on the one thing and get, even better than we already do at the current thing. And then that's when I'll kind of look at, expanding, our capabilities, especially as our team grows as well. Because as when you're kind of building up a company and building up a team, you can end up wearing a lot of hats. So fortunately, I've got a couple of great assistants that help me out with that. But yeah, I think definitely in the future we'll focus more on that.
And how are you managing that growth part of the business? And that's always a discussion point for all agency owners when you move from the solopreneur or the entrepreneur that's kind of doing everything to right now I need to scale and grow. I need some support here. It's a very distinct shift, and it becomes much more about relationships and people. You're not just managing the systems and the business anymore. You're managing human systems and people and relationships. So how have you found that aspect of you, sort of encountering that sort of human component, even with a sort of a small team?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So my partner, she's been helping me out a lot. Obviously I feel kind of bad, but I just delegate things that I don't really want to do, that aren't really super important, that obviously take time. I've got a couple of great virtual assistants. So one of them used to work for my dad and one of his business partners for their company. And just found another one recently who's a superstar. She's brand new, but I've given her all these tasks and she's nailed every single one. So I've been super fortunate in that regard. And we also have an awesome team of writers. We've got 6 writers currently who take care of all the writing for our clients. So yeah, I guess in terms of managing the relationships, I always just try to kind of figure out what they want and then give it to them, versus saying, I want you to do this, this, this. I kind of try to figure out, okay, where are you trying to go with this? What's your kind of goal out of this whole working relationship? And just try to fit the tasks into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting space, that sort of VA space. Obviously, a lot of agencies are sort of leaning on that at the moment. Might be interesting. Just again, you sort of had some personal contacts. How did you sort of touched on it, but maybe go a bit deeper on how did you actually find those right people? How did you make sure you're attracting the right sort of VA? And then what's that sort of onboarding process been to make sure that they're, and so you're positioning the right work for the right person, but how are you sort of making sure you've got the right person that's a brand fit, a value fit for yourself and your business?
That's a really good question. I mean, obviously the onboarding process is pretty simple. Just a lot of really kind of in-depth standard operating procedures, not too complicated, but just enough to, be able to send them to that. And my whole thing with it was okay, I'm going to send you this document. If you can't do what's in there, then I've done it wrong. I'm a big believer in taking ownership, which is why I think, I don't know the exact process for attracting the right people, but I think if you kind of are the person that you want to attract, somehow you'll attract that. To me, it's kind of a mystery, but I've been very fortunate in that regard in terms of the people that, I've been able to work with, the people that I've been able to bring into our company. I learned a lot from working for the 2 other entrepreneurs that I was running their business from a few years ago. I figured out what is a bad boss and what is a good boss. And so I was just trying to, be the good boss. And, it's as simple as just paying people directly on time. As soon as they send the invoice, just get it paid. Because the guys I was working with, they didn't pay me for, nearly 3 months, which is very frustrating as an employee. Doing the little things, I think, that kind of make the company culture something that you want to be a part of and something that, serves you and your kind of purpose.
Yeah. And another great point is that how do you define leadership? You sort of touched on it a little bit there about, making sure people are paid on time, and that's a really important thing. But how do you see yourself as a leader? What sort of, if you had to put it into values or sort of a mindset? How do you see yourself leading your team? What's the core to being a really good leader within an agency space, particularly when you're leading from a distance?
Yeah, it's definitely ownership for me. Like, as I said before, like if I sent them the standard operating procedure and they couldn't do it, then I haven't done a good enough job at articulating that and giving them enough clarity. I think, it's kind of a blanket statement, but I think a lot of people don't take ownership for things, which kind of manifests itself into certain areas of the business. It's like they're blaming their assistant. Like, for example, just to give you an example, one of my assistants, I gave her certain tasks and we just weren't generating any kind of results from it. But then, I looked at it, I'm like, geez, the whole process is so out of whack. The messaging is completely off. So rather than blame her and say, oh, my instinct was, oh, it's her fault, she's not, getting us any appointments, let's say. But then I kind of like took an objective look at it and was like, wow, okay, we need to do some work on it. We changed that. And she's like, oh my God, this is so much better. And she felt a lot more comfortable doing it. So yeah, it's just about kind of taking ownership and, giving them the clarity of where they're going, giving them the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. And did you find the results improved off the back of that?
Drastically. Yeah. I kind of neglected it. I just kind of said, oh yeah, she'll take care of it because she's really good at what she does. But I just didn't give her the right framework, that she probably would have had in the past. So yeah, that's where I took ownership there.
Yeah, that's really, really, quite a different perspective. When you say a lot of traditional leaders tend to not have that cognizance of actually, well, maybe I stuffed up. Right? So it's really, really great to see that you've got a sort of, you're putting yourself in that leader position of taking ownership and saying, like, if the communications, here's the result that I'm getting. If that result's not what I expected or intended, then the result, the problem's probably not with the recipient, it's with how I'm communicating it and the systems that I'm putting together. So I really appreciate that you're sort of at that level. It's quite distinct. Maybe hopefully it's a generational shift where we're seeing sort of more emotionally intelligent leaders come up through the ranks.
Yeah, I think we are. I think a lot of it comes down to like, your own personal development. And I think now we're kind of in an era where it's like pretty mainstream and popular to be into, working on yourself. And I think all that stuff manifests into everything that you do. So, you work on yourself as a person, and that's going to change your relationships in, personal life, social life, business, with your employees. So yeah, I definitely think things are going to be definitely shifting in that direction more and more in the coming years.
So talk about that. How did you, that sounds very similar to the sort of perspective that I took when I was at a point that's like, right, I want to grow my agency. I want to be more successful. I want the business to make more money, these types of things. And my solution was, well, if I want the business to grow, then I've got to grow myself. Right? If I want the business to develop, I need to develop myself. And that sort of kicked off my personal development journey. Was that a sort of the same sort of place that you came to it from, that personal development was going to be the thing that sort of helped you accelerate your business? And second part of the question, where did you start with that journey? Like, what authors did you lean on? What was one of the books or podcasts or things that you sort of followed to kick that journey off?
Yeah, I'm going to answer the second part of the question first, because I can pinpoint it to an exact moment. So I believe it was at the end of 2015. So quick preface, I was playing college golf in America. I was on a golfing scholarship there.
Oh.
Things didn't work out, so I came back and finished my last year of uni in Australia. Just as soon as I was at uni, I just knew I didn't belong there. It wasn't kind of like where I wanted to be. Even though my bachelor degree was entrepreneurship at RMIT in Melbourne, I didn't learn anything about, modern day entrepreneurship. Anyway, I was sitting scrolling on my phone on my bed after class one day, and I saw a post on Instagram saying, the most successful people in the world read an average of 20 books a year or something like that. And I mean, I was never a big reader. I hadn't read a book since Harry Potter in primary school. And I went down to the bookshelf. My dad had a ton of books. I picked up a book called Positivity by Barbara Fredrickson. And just that one book alone, I had so many, epiphanies or like profound moments where I was like, wow, this is like incredible. And I, applied them in my golf at the time, because that's what I was focusing on.
Right.
and it really improved my results. I was really, I was stoked with it. So I got addicted to reading books, and, I kind of built up a system for each day of, a routine to get myself into a good state to start the day, which I do, probably 90% of days now, which just incorporates, a bit of meditation, a bit of journaling, a bit of reading, not anything crazy, just a quick 30, 40 minutes just to get the day started. Mm-hmm. And I think that little framework alone has helped me so much, because you make growth a part of your daily routine. And so it's not a chore. I realized the benefits of that. And I think that journey over the last 4 or 5 years of just doing this stuff every day has really kind of compounded to where I am now. So yeah, it wasn't so much I was doing it for the purpose of growing my business, but all the development stuff I did throughout my golfing time, throughout, when I was finishing uni, and throughout my business career, if you will, that all kind of compounded to, where I am today.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. So, I mean, it sounds like you always had kind of a high performance mindset. I mean, if you're playing golf at any sort of that sort of competitive level, you must have had you've got an innate sort of high performance mentality to begin with. So that
I'm going to disagree with that, because I think, well, obviously you don't know me that personally, but the way I was when I was a teenager, it was kind of, like most people, pretty lost, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew what I didn't want to do in my life, which kind of shaped a lot of my decisions. Yeah. It wasn't until I really started getting into the personal development stuff that I was like, damn, like I could really actually play professional golf. It was when I had that simple paradigm shift, because I think for me growing up, it's like, only, the best of the best of the best could ever become professional. And I just had, without realizing, a lot of limiting beliefs that weren't really going to serve me. I just never thought I could do it. And then just from kind of getting to personal development, I was like, wow, I can actually do this. These guys aren't that much better than me. And, for example, my results in college, it wasn't until I played with the best guy in our entire conference that I was like, wow, this guy's not even that good. And then I simply just started to believe that I was better than the best guy in the competition. My last 5 tournaments were the best results I'd ever had. I won once, had a top 3, and the rest were in the top 5 when I had barely even cracked the top 10 throughout my whole college career. And the only one thing that changed was my approach to it in my mindset. So I definitely understand the power of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. It's so powerful, but it seems so simple. It's like, I just thought about something in a different way, right? It sounds like a kind of a throwaway thing, but when you actually lean into the stuff, you recognize it. We all have belief systems, and those belief systems, what we actually believe, limits or expands what we're actually capable of taking action on. So when we have a fixed mindset or a fixed set of beliefs, we can only take actions within what we believe in, right? Within that reality, until we expand our consciousness. When you expand what you believe in, whether that's, as you said, you read a book or you watch a podcast or you read a quote and it takes you down that rabbit hole of your mind's expanded from what it was. Now you can literally take actions that were impossible yesterday or the hour before or a week ago. So it's really simple, but as you're saying, it's profoundly powerful when you actually lean in and tap into that stuff. And I love that you've actually taken that, you've followed that journey, and now you're actually practicing that daily, because that really is the secret sauce of the whole thing. Reading the book, watching The Secret is great, but then to actually bake it down into a systemized approach and enact it daily, that's where it becomes really profound and really tangible, because you get that compounding effect. So in terms of your ideal day, you talk about a morning routine. What sort of went through it briefly. Maybe take us into that a little bit. What's your ideal sort of daily routine from the morning through to, do you have sort of active recovery processes, exercise? How does that sort of stuff factor into your average day?
Yeah, good question. So to give you a high level run through of my day, wake up at 5:15. First thing I do is I go into my office, get my journal, write down a few things I'm grateful for, my short-term goals, a few things that I want to accomplish today. Then I'll pick up my book and I'll read, however much I feel like, usually 10 pages or so, just a little bit, kind of digest the information. Then I'll just meditate for 5 minutes, nothing crazy. I used to do it for 40 minutes, but I didn't really see the difference in between doing it for that long and shorter. So just to kind of get me grounded and a little bit of visualization in there. Then I'll just start the day. I work in 1 hour blocks. So the first hour is just like really hyper focused. All the times it's just like prospecting and following up. Then I'll normally work till about 10, 11 a.m., head to the gym, do an hour there, start with mobility, then strength training. Then I head to the beach. Fortunately, now I live on the Gold Coast, so I can, go to the beach. I normally go maybe 3 days a week. Then I take a bit of a break in the afternoons just because my brain doesn't function then. And then I'll normally start working again at, 5 or so, just depending how much I want to do that day. Sometimes I'll work up until, 9, 10 p.m., just building a few extra things we're working on. It varies a bit day by day, but like the basic, I get all the important stuff done in the morning, the essential things to push the needle forward. Everything else is just extra in that regard.
Yeah. Amazing. It's like that is a perfect day. And you factor in all of the right stuff in there. You've got your basics, you sort of refer to them as positive psychology basics, your active recovery, your exercise, hydration, all these kind of basic things that they're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. So I mean, it's amazing to see that you're actually doing all of that and implementing that. And I think I know your answer, but how do you find that impacts your work? And you spoke at working in 1 hour blocks and having that focused attention. I mean, that's how you trigger flow states, right? That's how you get into these high performance states regularly. Do you find yourself sort of dropping into this sort of state where you feel your best, you perform your best, time slips by, your sort of sense of self disappears? Do you find that happening quite frequently during your days, or is there particular activities where you sort of notice anything like that happening?
It's a good question. Not really, to be honest. Like I feel the times when that happens most is like, I'll do a fair bit of writing, but I haven't really done much writing this year. And that's when I'm in that flow state. Like I can, pump out like a pretty good, 700, 800 word article within 20, 30 minutes. I just get in the zone and I just put pen to paper. Obviously I'll go back and read it like a few hours later and be like, okay, I can fix this. Yeah. So in terms of the work that I'm currently doing, definitely when I'm writing is when I get into that flow state. I do get into a flow state with other tasks, but it's not super creative. So it's not like I'm in my zone of genius. It's just more like getting in that zone where you can get 2 to 3 times the amount done if you're not hyper focused on it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like, it doesn't have to be this magical, mystical experience every time, but it is just I've spent an hour, and because I'm in this sort of altered state, I'm in this high performance state, you're getting 3, 4, 5, 8, 10x performance out of that single hour. So instead of getting, you just say by midday, you've probably done more work than most people get done in a week, because you're in that state, and you're literally taking all of your most important tasks, you're dropping them into these high performance zones, and you're just cranking the workout. So it's great to hear that you're actually doing all of this stuff. It's really, really important. I think a lot of traditional agency owners or a lot of people in this space don't have that sort of cognition that how important this stuff is and the benefits that you sort of see off the back end of it. So it's amazing to see, amazing to hear that you're on point with all of that. So with all of this, high performance, what's 2021 got in store for you? Sort of what's the big picture? Where is everything taking you to? What's the goals for this year?
Yeah, so the goals in terms of like the vision for the company, essentially I want our brand to be like the absolute go-to for anyone in the whole online entrepreneur space, for all their PR stuff, which I feel like we already are becoming, and it kind of ties into my other goal of creating the best customer experience possible. I haven't clearly defined that yet, but there's things that I'm kind of implementing and working on, which when I have done that, it's kind of, naturally just brought more people referring friends. A lot of our business comes through referrals. So I think really prioritizing the customer experience is going to get us to where we are, the kind of the people that no one even questions about going to. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to go to Boost Media. So I read a book called The Customer Loyalty Loop. I recommend any business owner read that. It's just about the customer experience from start to finish and why your current customers are more important than new customers. yeah, that was a really game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah, as they say, it's easier to sell to someone that you've already sold to, right? You've built that. They know, like, and trust you already. So it's
Correct.
an easier conversion and cheaper, right? It's more affordable to bring somebody that's already in your ecosystem than trying to attain somebody over here that doesn't know you yet. Awesome. So it sounds like it's going to be a massive year for you. If people want to find out more about you, they want to connect with you. So where's the best spaces for them to come in and find you and connect with the business, connect with yourself personally?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So my LinkedIn's on the thing there. My Instagram's just Lewis_Schenk. Yeah, drop me a DM. More than happy to chat and connect with like-minded people.
Awesome. Been a really, really interesting show. I know we sort of spoke at the start about we weren't really sure where this was going to go, and this is sort of the whole idea with these shows. But I really appreciate sort of where we got to. Obviously, my whole bag is high performance and peak performance and flow states, and literally everything that you're doing is sort of, it's bang on. So it's been really good to see that you've sort of come to that yourself, that you're bringing the sort of peak performance and self-development world into what you're doing, and sort of looking at yourself as a human being in business rather just as a business owner. And you're sort of, meeting your human and personal needs within your business. So kudos to you. Congrats for being at that sort of level. It's really, really, really cool to see.
I appreciate that a lot, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks for coming on. That is going to be it for the episode today. We've cranked on to around 26 minutes, which these episodes always fly by. Could always probably sit here and crack on for another hour, but really appreciate your time this morning. It's probably about gym time now, sort of wrap up here and head to the gym and get your workout and head down the beach, or what's plans for that?
I've got a call with one of my team members straight after this, and then I'm actually going to head down for a walk along the beach. Just a nice light walk this morning.
Sounds ideal. I wish I had a beach near me, but it might just be a loop around the park for me. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for tuning in, everyone that's tuned in. We'll be back with another episode very, very soon. Thanks for your time. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for being here, Lewis. We'll see you around soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.